Hey everybody, it's Barbara Ann. Welcome back to my channel, Straight Out of Context.
Gypsy, you grew up so sheltered and so isolated. How
Did she though? Did she really grow up isolated and sheltered with absolutely no friends, no ability to go on the internet, to talk to anybody, to communicate with anybody, never went anywhere, did anything?
have you adjusted to suddenly living your life in front of the cameras?
It's a huge adjustment. I'm still adjusting.
Her body language is betraying her because she's smiling when talking about her fame, but yet she said this in her show.
I feel like not many times in my life have I ever acknowledged the elephant in the room. How did I acquire this status? I don't think it ever becomes normal for everybody to recognize me so much.
Body language is telling me that she's extremely comfortable, that she feels safe. She's smiling. She's actually proud that she's recognized and she's well known. But this is not anything new to Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She and her mother Dee Dee were very well known in the local community where they lived in Springfield, Missouri. And they used mainstream media, news outlets, charities to curate that persona, that image, that fame. And she just took it even bigger after she took the life of her mother. Gypsy Rose Blanchard, Mike Stanfield, her defense attorney, now manager, and Melissa G. Moore, from the moment that Gypsy was incarcerated for her crime, have curated a story to sell it nationally, to make her a national symbol of victim turned victor. But the problem with that is this.
But it's a process, and I'm processing.
The story that is sold to mainstream media and to society via social media with her marketing and advertising of her shows, books, interviews, you can clearly see that there is another victim in all of this. And Gypsy Rose Blanchard's victim story is not any more important than Nicholas Godejohn's victim story.
I have to say, I've spent a couple of days with you now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't strike me as someone who's capable of planning a murder.
Well, I mean, my situation was very centered around my circumstances.
I don't buy it. She was almost 24 years old. She could have got up, she could have walked out, she could have left, and she could have never came back. That's all she had to do. She attempted to take her mother's life herself in the spring of 2011 and again on June 14th of 2011 when she took a high-velocity airsoft and unloaded 10 rounds on her mother, where Gypsy would go on to spend another 4 years not only planning her crime, but doing all the work and exhausting all of the energy to follow through with it while manipulating somebody with mental disability, mental health issues, and level 2 autism into believing that she loved him and it was the only way he can help save her life.
So I can honestly say I would have never committed that crime had I not been pushed to the brink where I really just snapped.
But that's another lie because Gypsy didn't snap. Gypsy spent over 4 years trying to take the life of her mother. That was very methodical. That was very planned out. That's over 1,400 plus days on average that she spent planning it out, manipulating somebody into helping her to do it. So it wasn't that she was pushed to the brink and that she just snapped. That is a flat out lie. She spent over 4 years methodically planning this out, hiding it, covering it up, lying about it, and then finally doing her crime. In all that time, she didn't exhaust all her options. She didn't go to CPS or Adult Protective Services or law enforcement, nor did she reach out to anyone, family, friends. And what tells us that she's lying is that she spends all of that time literally sending inappropriate messages, videos, and photographs to random men, and not just one random man. She says 4, plus Dan Glidewell, plus Nicholas Godejohn. And that's not even including Sebastian and Brian.
So when you think back on your childhood, on your memories of your mother, what are those memories like? What emotions do you feel?
I have a lot of emotions that are attached to life with my mom. Some of them are good. because not all times were bad.
Well, Gypsy, you're going to be hard-pressed to find out that everything in life is good and bad. Relationships, marriages, maintaining friendships, relationships with your family, being a child, being a parent, being a wife, being a girlfriend. Everything in life is good and bad.
But there are times, when things were good, things were good. When things were bad, things were real bad.
And Gypsy wants everybody to believe that the bad was really bad. So much so that it condones, justifies, or reasons her taking the life of her mother. Because, people knew of her existence and that she would never, ever do or post such a thing. But let's look at her own book, where she does a diagram of all of her surgical scars. And then let's compare that to her real scars without all of the moles and the smaller scars that she says are there that don't exist because there's no surgery for such. She's got 2 scars for her salivary glands that were removed, a feeding tube scar, and she also has a scar from a muscle biopsy, which is a test. Moles do not count, and the 3 smaller scars you can see clearly do not exist. They are not there. She also couldn't show why she would have 3 smaller scars. So yes, caught her in another lie, because they clearly are not there when she's pregnant. Gypsy's biggest lie is telling the world that her mother had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, when her mother was never diagnosed, nor was she ever prosecuted in a civil or criminal court.
Did you love her?
Of course I loved my mom.
But her hatred, her disgust, her disdain, her resentment, and her jealousy of her mom overrode any love that she may have had one time as a child. She says loved, as in past tense. I have a lot of loved ones that are no longer here. My dad is no longer here, and I still say I still love my dad. I still love the people that I lost.
And did she love you?
I struggle with that question.
The proper answer to this is, I don't know. My mom is not here, so I cannot ask her. I cannot talk to her. I cannot get, quote, the truth, unquote, from her. You cannot assume somebody's emotions after they've been gone for 10 years and assume somebody's emotions based off their actions. No matter which way you believe, because Dee Dee was sick. She was diabetic. She was extremely overweight. She had suffered through cancer. So a lot of the things that she used to physically be able to do, she no longer could do. So I very much would say, yeah, her physical limitations are not going to be in alignment with what Gypsy thought love was.
And I still don't know the answer. I like to think that my mom loved me in her own way.
Gypsy forfeits the right to speculate about her mother's past emotions when she's the one who was convicted of taking her life. People express and show their emotions in different ways, and Dee Dee certainly expressed and showed that she loved her daughter, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, by keeping her happy, healthy, and safe for 24 years.
As a parent, there's a ferocious protectiveness that kicks in. You'll feel it, I'm sure. The thought of anyone harming my child or my child being in any sort of pain, it's almost an animal instinct.
Right.
To stop that and protect it. So it is hard to imagine how a mother could deliberately hurt their own child.
And this is the point where I tell people, give me one piece of solid forensic evidence that her mother ever intentionally harmed her, that she ever intentionally did anything to be abusive towards her, to cause her pain, to cause her trauma. Just show me one definitive piece of evidence. If all we have to go on is Gypsy's own words, then that is not enough for me. That is hearsay, and that is not going to be taken into consideration by me. And I would highly suggest for anybody else or mainstream media, same for you too. Me and many other people have caught Gypsy Rose Blanchard in many lies, many contradictions. So when anybody says, quote, Gypsy said, unquote, no, not good enough.
Do you still grapple with that?
I do, especially now carrying my own child. I can't imagine, I go through the daily things of wondering even if a cup of coffee is, too much for my baby. Something so simple.
Not Gypsy Rose Blanchard over here proving her medical records and her mother correct, by saying that caffeine, milk, and sugar is maybe a little bit too much for her. Is she admitting she has allergies or she's had past issues with such things?
So I cannot even fathom how a mom could knowingly do anything to her child to purposely cause pain or suffering.
Yet one of her plans was to get pregnant by Nicholas Godejohn, forcing her mother to have to accept him in her life and allow her to date him. And she still wanted to have a family with Nicholas Godejohn even after the crime. While she was role-playing as Damona, remember, she's 24 years old almost at this point. She's offering up her daughter's V card to Nicholas when she turns 13 because he's the master of the household. This is an almost 24-year-old Gypsy Rose Blanchard hypothetically causing grievous bodily harm and pain and trauma to her future daughter when she turns 13. And yet the sad part is documenting her pregnancy, all of her ultrasounds, using People Magazine and TMZ, using social media to tell everybody she's not going to be showing her baby. That is in fact exactly what she goes on to do. And remember, this was not even 10 years ago when she was talking to Nicholas Godejohn saying that she was going to offer up their daughter when she turns 13 for him to take her V card. Yeah, that was all Gypsy's idea. Gypsy's evil alter ego, Damona.
For attention purposes, I can't, or any purpose, I can't imagine. I don't understand it.
And yet her mother was never diagnosed, nor was she ever prosecuted in a civil or criminal court anywhere. Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Dee Dee Blanchard, neither of them fit the criteria that is used to diagnose by psychiatrists for factitious disorder or Munchausen syndrome by proxy. If you look at the DSM-5, you'll clearly recognize that they don't fit the criteria because of many reasons. Gypsy really was sick. It has to be void of external rewards. And Gypsy and Dee Dee were doing it solely for money, for gifts, for a house, for a car, for trips, for all of the funds that they got through GoFundMe. Yes, that's all external. They also don't fit the criteria because seeking attention from social media, from neighbors, from people in the local community, that has to be absent as well, because people with Munchausen syndrome by proxy are seeking attention from nurses, from doctors. That's why they're in the emergency room all the time. They are solely seeking medical attention from a medical facility. This, as well as a few other cases, are not a true case of factitious disorder imposed on another, also known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And if it's malpractice, then it's the sole responsibility of a physician and not her mother. Gypsy has garnered so much social media attention and infamy from taking the life of her mother that there are people actually mimicking. I counted over 19 teenagers who tried to take the lives of their mother while they were sleeping. And this is not including adults who have literally tried to mimic or copycat her story because they feel entitled to her fame, her attention, her pity, her sympathy, her hatred. All of it. But it also begs the question, what is wrong with you that you want to copycat a convicted murderer?
What did she tell you and medical professionals was wrong with you?
There was a long list of medical illnesses that my mom told the doctors that I had, ranging from muscular dystrophy to leukemia, hearing impaired, vision impaired, anything that could be wrong with someone, honestly. My name's Gypsy Rose Blanchard, and if you've read my book, My Time to Stand, then you will know that I have a rare genetic condition called microdeletion 1q21.1.
And you believed her?
I did believe her because I grew up that way. So it started from infancy. So she started telling the doctors that I had sleep apnea when I was just a baby. And then it graduated to a seizure disorder. I talk about how I believe that my mother was using this condition as a blueprint for some of the health concerns she claimed I had.
Doctors and scientists wouldn't figure out Gypsy Rose's specific chromosome microdeletion until 2008. So how could her mom be using that as a blueprint if she wasn't even diagnosed until 2012? Now remember, she tried to take the life of her mother in 2011 in the spring and again on June 14th of 2011.
And she kept building on that list of things. So by the end of it all, there was not a single part of my body that didn't have something supposedly wrong with it.
I remember when Gypsy was 3 or 4 months old, Dee Dee told me she would stop breathing in her sleep. Chatter tested and she has sleep apnea.
To the left is the diagram that Gypsy made of her own body. You'll notice that she adds 3 small scars that are not surgical or medical scars and a lot of moles. To the right is my diagram of the real scars that she actually has. But then there's the sleep apnea, which she really did have.
After she divorced Rod, Dee Dee moved back with us. And at night, Gypsy had a machine on. The alarm would come on when she stopped breathing. So you had to wake her up. Once you wake her up, the machine would stop. But it was scary.
What was the perceived illness, or what in fact caused you to lose all your teeth?
So the cause is actually not known. All that I know from the medical records is that my mother told them that my teeth were very fragile.
Extraction is the treatment for a tooth that is beyond repair. And in 2015, there was a lot of states that didn't have Medicaid, and Medicaid did not cover restorative or cosmetic dental treatments. But as you can see here in her medical records, it clearly states that she had dental rehab done in April of 2007. She had 3 teeth extracted and 13 to 14 cavities repaired. And at a later date, she had more extractions, and she had, as you can see, 4, 4, 4. In her upper right quadrant, she has a missing incisor, so she has 3. That is 15 teeth that they either root canaled and crowned, or they just crowned, trying to save them. And so you can see that she had multiple different times where she's seen a dentist. Her dental records and x-rays would reflect that. Now, I have a really unpopular opinion here, but I believe today with our technology and with our access that everybody that suffers from tooth loss deserves to have their smile restored, despite their gender, their race, their religion, their disability, or their financial status. And as you can see, Gypsy suffered from tooth loss, extractions, and caps and crowns, even when she was very young on her baby teeth. And the fact of the matter is, she had her smile completely restored for free, whereas most people that really need it can't get that.
And were crumbling, and so they decided to extract. So the dentist extracted several of my teeth, capped other teeth in chrome caps, and that's what happened to my teeth.
But that is not true, and that is not what happened. In April of 2007, she had 3 teeth pulled, and she had 13 to 14 cavities repaired. She later had more extractions and then had 15 crowns done. That is contradictory to say that they ripped out all of these teeth for no reason, yet they saved 15 of them at that same exact time. First and foremost, they should have her medical records, because they are available for anybody to read, her dental records and x-rays.
So it's mysterious why doctors and dentists would remove healthy teeth. So I'm not really sure.
Gypsy Rose Blanchard knows exactly why. You can look at the medical records, the dental records, her dental x-rays, and look at photographic evidence starting at 5 years old. Why she had to have so many teeth extracted, why she had to have so many fillings, and then why she had to have so many adult teeth extracted. The photos really speak for themselves here. So which is it? Is it medication? Is it because the mom just said? Is it because of Oragel? Is it because of she doesn't really know now the real reason why? All she knows is that her excuses got her a free smile makeover, when lots of people in the United States deserve to have smile makeovers and can't afford it. People who rely on teeth to be able to speak, eat, swallow, and chew.
Epilepsy is a seizure disorder that is also very common with this genetic condition. However, I don't remember having any seizures growing up. That's not to say that it didn't happen.
At what stage or age did you realise that it was a farce?
I mean, there are some things that I already knew that obviously I could walk. I knew that I could walk. I knew that I could eat, so I didn't need the feeding tube. But the other things like cancer, you can't see that. So I had believed that I had cancer up until the time that I was arrested and could talk to my lawyer.
And even then, she wasn't honest with her lawyer, but her lawyer is the same person who is acting as her manager today. I'm surprised he hasn't recused himself since there's a conflict of interest there. But he has a huge stake in the Gypsy Rose Blanchard agenda. He's the one that not only curated her entire defense strategy, which is the Munchausen syndrome by proxy abuse excuse. Yeah, none other than Mike Stanfield, who gets a percentage of everything as her manager today, is still her manager today. He's the one that curated this whole story to not only save her life, to get her a sweetheart plea deal, and to make sure that Nicholas Godejohn took the fall, the blame, the brunt, and the life sentence for Gypsy's actions. The Munchausen syndrome by proxy excuse doesn't work when you throw a third party into the mix. It would have been more probable had she done it herself.
You said you knew you could walk.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you were in the wheelchair even at home with your mum?
Correct. It was not just an outside thing. It was not an outside facade. On the inside, I couldn't even walk. So even on the inside, my mom, when she was around, did not let me walk around the house.
Now, we know that this is not true because Gypsy's own medical records state that the patient herself was reporting to the doctor being paraplegic from the waist down. And it also states that her muscle tone in her legs and thighs were supple and normal. Gypsy's own medical records state that she never had muscle atrophy. This is also known as muscle wasting. It is a condition that causes muscles to lose mass and strength. It can make muscles appear smaller than normal due to lack of muscle tissue. Common causes include lack of mobility. Muscle atrophy will begin within 24 hours of immobility. If you don't use it, you lose it. Now, this is really important to note because nowhere in Gypsy's medical records does it state that she had muscle atrophy. She had very healthy, normal, supple muscle tone. And for any Homo sapien on planet Earth, you will have muscle atrophy in your lower extremities if you are forced to sit in a wheelchair. And it will be very obvious and apparent after as little as 2 weeks. This is another lie because Gypsy knows that she was walking. She knew she could walk because she was doing so. And the reason why they blacked out certain windows was so that way people could not see in. And the reason why they had curtains on the rest is for privacy. Having curtains in your bedroom is not uncommon worldwide. That's normal. But extracting teeth is the treatment for rotten teeth, for cavities that are beyond repair, and it is because you can get sepsis. Having rotting teeth still in your mouth and not extracted can lead to that bacteria going into your bloodstream and then getting into the sac of the heart, causing cardiac encephalitis. It can cause long-term brain damage, damage to the valves of the heart, and it can even cause death. I personally know somebody that had this, and they were in the hospital for over 62 days getting IV antibiotics and then had to have open heart surgery 5 months later. Not only did the person that I know who had sepsis end up with all of their teeth pulled out, they had to have their upper aorta and mitral valve repaired. Not replaced. They were very fortunate because unfortunately a lot of people die every year from sepsis of bad teeth.
So total control.
Total control, yes.
So the question that so many people can't understand, and perhaps only, in fact, victims and survivors of abuse can, the question so many people want to know, why didn't you get up and walk? Tell someone, run away, tell a doctor.
That is the one question that everyone seems to ask.
She was a little over a month away from her 24th birthday, and she spent over 4 years sending inappropriate videos and photographs to men. Not just Nicholas Godejohn and Sebastian and Brian and Dan Glidewell and 4 others that she self-admitted. If she could get her rocks off with an electric toothbrush, she certainly could have just stood up and walked right out that door.
And the I don't think people understand the emotional hold that an abuser has on their victims.
But she's not asking you about other victims, and she's not asking you about DV survivors. She's specifically asking you about you. So separating yourself from victim and abuser and all of that is telling us that you don't even see yourself as a true victim. And the reason why is because you know inside, in your own head, that you're not.
So, asking me that is the same as putting me in a category of saying, well, domestic violence survivors, why didn't they just leave their abusive husbands? It's because of that emotional hold that the abuser has.
Here she goes again, hypothetically lumping her story in with other things that make you not want to question it, like DV survivors. Now, that's not true. Most domestic survivors end up not leaving their perpetrators for many different reasons. Love, believing that they're sick. But one of the largest reasons is because of their children and because of financial status. Not having the money, not having access to money is one of the largest reasons why people don't leave their perpetrators. If she truly knew that she was a victim, she would then answer that question with not comparing her story to domestic survivors. She would compare her story by saying, first and foremost, child abuse is a type of domestic violence, which is simply summed up with anybody in your immediate family or in your immediate household perpetrating or abuse against you.
And the consequences that you felt would arise from it.
Exactly. I didn't know if things would be worse for me at home, because often when I did try to rebel and go against her, the arguments and there were physical abuse that was going on in the home. So it was worse.
Now remember, she has reiterated over and over that there was only a 2-week period where her mother ever got physical with her. And that was when she was 19 and she tried to run away. And that is only speaking about one of the times.
Knowing what you know now, do you believe your mother was very ill?
I do. I still grapple with the reality that I kind of wonder if she knew intentionally what she was doing, or if it was just she was so mentally unstable that maybe it clouded her judgment. But I'd like to think better of her, that she didn't know and it was out of her control.
Or the truth was she really did have the mother's intuition to know that her child clearly had something wrong with it. From the moment that Gypsy was born, she can look at her aesthetically and physically and tell that there was something not right. And she was doing nothing but what a loving mother would, searching for answers, of which she finally got in 2012 when Gypsy was diagnosed with her very rare genetic chromosome microdeletion disorder.
So at what point did you make that decision that killing your mother was the only way that you could be free?
I want to say it was around the time that I felt like I had tried to exhaust all the options that I thought was available to me. So I ran away from home. She brought me back within 4 hours of being gone. She had chained me to a bed, and there was a lot of physical abuse for 2 weeks.
For only 2 weeks. That's the only time her mother ever got physical with her, according to what she's saying. Now, she's not talking about a whole 4.5 years later when she's a month away from her 24th birthday. She's literally talking about way before this, because 2011 she also tried to take the life of her mom in the spring, and on June 14th of 2011 she tried to take her life a second time, a whole year and a half before she ever met Nick.
So I felt like I had learned my lesson, that was not a route that I could take, and so then your survival mode starts to kick in and you're like, okay, it's either her or me.
She is talking about when she is 19 years old, feeling and thinking these things. Now remember, she attempted to take her mother's life twice herself in 2011. She did not meet Nicholas Godejohn online until October of 2012. So now the whole narrative of he's a POS and he's a psychopath and he's the one that's culpable for this evil side coming out of him. Who's really the evil one here, Gypsy? Right, because it's not normal for anybody to love their mother and to be loved by their mother and to have homicidal tendencies or thoughts. Just because she stopped you from running away with some guy who is 36 years old, has been in trouble previously with $1,000 of her money and her entire Class A scheduled substance medication. You were caught lying to your mother and stealing from your mother. But let's not talk about all the crimes that you've committed, right? That you've never been caught or prosecuted for, like all the theft, the 2 attempted murders that you committed against your mom, the stealing of her opiate medications, money, stealing from local stores and gas stations. Yeah, but I digress.
Do you think the motivation was the attention or the financial gain, the free holidays, the free home?
I fully believe that the attention was the main cause of it. The financial was secondary.
The entire time that they lived in Springfield, Missouri, what was that, over 9 years that they lived in Missouri, Gypsy rarely ever went to the hospital or to a doctor as she got older. She only went to have her feeding tube changed. It was solely for financial gain. And her mother does not have and did not have Munchausen syndrome by proxy. That's why she wasn't seeking attention from the medical facilities.
What do I need to do to get out of here? And unfortunately, that was a thought in my head.
Yeah, and Gypsy's had a lot of really bad thoughts, like offering up her 13-year-old daughter's V card to her biological father for her 13th birthday gift. Yeah, if you see here, her specific deletion is more closely related to schizophrenia and microcephaly, which she does actually have.
It's a sign of the desperation. I think you were such a, seemingly sweet young woman with having lived a very sheltered life.
Exactly.
That's where your mind went.
Exactly. Because it's not like I had a criminal record. It's not that I had a history of violence or anything like that.
This is actually a lie. She stole from Walmart all the time. She and her mother were caught at Hobby Lobby stealing, where the police were called. She was caught at Michael's stealing. She is blacklisted from ever being allowed to go inside of a Hobby Lobby ever again. She has committed crimes by saying false allegations against her grandfather, Aaliyah Woodmansey. She's even admitted to lying to her attorneys. She's slandered and libeled her mom after taking her life. She has defamed and slandered Nicholas Godejohn. She has lied to her dad and stepmother. She has completely obliterated her mother's memory. But because she's only 4'11", white, and female, and sounds like a 12-year-old, yeah, she gets away with it. So having a criminal past and being caught for the criminal things that she's done, those are 2 different things, because she's also stolen money and pills from her mother numerous times.
Been running with the wrong crowd?
No running with the wrong crowd. It was
In
literally...
fact, you had no friends.
I didn't have any friends. I wasn't allowed to.
Really? What was Aaliyah Woodmansey then?
So she controlled everything in my life, my physical appearance, what I ate, what, who I was allowed to hang out, around, associate with.
Ooh, Gypsy slipped up. She slipped up and she tried to catch herself because she just said she wasn't allowed to have friends. And then she said that her mom controls who she was allowed to talk to, hang around with, meaning that she was allowed to have friends. And she was very clearly allowed to get kinky on the internet at home.
How much exposure to the world that I have. And that was so limited.
Then why do hundreds of people know that you got a laptop from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, that you got all these trips, that you got to take all these vacations, you got a home, an entire house from Habitat for Humanity by pretending to be sick? You got 2 different vehicles. You got all these, you got to go swimming with dolphins. You got to meet celebrities. You got to go to Magic Kingdom, Disney World. You got money from celebrities. You got awards that you were accepting at 21 and 24 years old, knowing good damn and well that you were a fully fledged adult pretending to be a paraplegic in a wheelchair. Yet it's all your mom's fault. I know real survivors that the moment they turned 16 or 18, boom, they were gone. They didn't continue for 6 years to grift, lie, scam, and steal from the public with their mother.
When you were 15, 16, 17, did you think, oh, I'd love to try makeup, or did you think about dating?
Of course. I mean, I feel honestly that sometimes it's nurture nature, right? So I feel like we are biologically programmed to just kind of develop our sense of self and curiosity about these things. So of course I wanted to, wear makeup. I wanted to date boys. I wanted to go to prom. I wanted to do all these things. But these things weren't allowed for me.
Maybe because your mother was looking out for you. The woman that has the same exact genetic chromosome disorder that Gypsy Rose Blanchard does, who lives in the UK, her caregivers have spoken out to content creators and have said that she requires lifelong 24/7 care because of her genetic chromosome disorder. And if you don't know, 1q21.1, if you have the deletion, you are more likely to have microcephaly. You are more likely to have mental health and mental disability issues. You are more likely to have hypersexuality. It is a symptom of what she has. The fact that she was on valcyclovir, a genital herpes medication, tells you that clearly her mom was trying to curb her very obvious and apparent negative bad behavior before something really horrible happened to her. And she was right. She would go on to cover for Gypsy when she attempted to take her life on June 14th of 2011. And then she would go on to actually take her mom's life. So I would say Dee Dee's probably correct. She knew that her daughter was dangerous. She knew that her daughter had issues and physical issues and mental issues, and she was trying to protect the world from her.
And your only escape then was the internet.
Exactly. I could dress up who I wanted to be on the internet, create Facebook profiles, and create a new identity for myself. And it was, in a sense, an escape.
But then she just said that she wasn't allowed to have friends, that her mom literally hawk-eyed every single thing that she did. So how was she able to go online for over 5 years on multiple different electronic devices, do all of these cosplays, take all of these inappropriately, highly intimate and sensual images and videos and send them to men? Because she just said that her mother controlled everybody that she talked to, that she hung out with, everything that she did, everything that she wore, yet she's not here. If that was fundamentally the truth, Gypsy wouldn't be able to sex with all these strange grown men. Yet she did all the time, dressing, wearing, doing her makeup however she wants, getting, you know what, in the birthday suit, playing with electric toothbrushes. And she's doing this day in and day out for over 5 years. And her mom's not like, hey, Gypsy, what are you doing in the bathroom? I hear the toothbrush going off for a half hour. Gypsy, come on, what are you doing? Her mom would have just barged right in if that was the case, right? But she didn't. I think she clearly knew something was going on. That or she had caught her before.
Whose plan was it then to kill your mother?
It was my plan. I'm the one that came up with it.
This is no new revelation here, okay? We know that this is the truth, and we know it because Nicholas Godejohn, in his interrogation video, tells the detective very honestly, transparently, and openly, to be honest with you, yeah, I did it because she asked me to. And the reason why is because I love her very much, and we exhausted all these other options, and because her mom wanted people to think she was like 16 all the time. You can clearly see that he did not understand the predicament that he was in. He did not understand what was happening.
And who bought the murder weapon, the knife?
I did.
And P.S., that little psychopath is right where she belongs, and she's going to stay there for the rest of her goddamn life. And anybody who ever defends that POS is just flat out ignorant. You know why? because now everybody in the world knows who she is and what she really did. Reverse that, Gypsy, and see how that feels. How does that really feel now that you're admitting that it was your plan? You're the one who got the weapon. You're the one that chose the weapon and the method of using it. The problem is you want people to believe that Nicholas Godejohn is the problem, because pointing the finger at him, putting all of the blame on him, somehow makes you look better, because it somehow makes you look like you are more deserving of freedom instead of the psychopath and POS that you truly are for doing what you did and dragging him into it, by proxy. But who cares about mental health, right? Who cares about victims' rights, right? Who cares about men's rights, right? Who cares about autism, right? Certainly not Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She only cares about herself. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on notifications, and share.